Hello and welcome to the Fair Dinkum Arsenal podcast. I'm your host Jacob, and today we're going to be discussing the 2-1 victory over Huddersfield, which we played away, and it's our first away victory for quite a while. It was a very important victory to get, as it is now set us up in a good position with Chelsea dropping points, and that leaves us in 5th on goal difference and 1 point behind Manchester United, which we verse in the not too distant future. So that will be pretty much one of the most important games in the season for us, which I have spoken about in the previous podcast. But ironically, we seem to be able to give teams lifelines, and I mean that in the fact that we always seem to come up against a team who hasn't scored in X amount of games or hasn't won, or they've just got a new manager after their previous manager had been sacked, and we always seem to be able to give the team that we're versing that stat that the commentators always seem to talk about. In this case, Huddersfield hadn't scored a goal in, I don't know, something crazy like 8 hours, and lo and behold, in the last few minutes of the game, Kolasinac taps it into his own net, giving them a goal that I guess some people would say they deserve, but I think Laurent Koscielny performed exemplary today, and for me, he was my man of the match. He just defended like we've seen him do over the past couple of seasons. It's good to see him back in form. He's really hit the form that we've seen from him in his prime years, and what a time to get him back as well with all these defender injuries. But hopefully Socrates comes back soon, because I think him and Koscielny form a really good partnership, and with not having experienced right backs, I mean, we've got Lichtsteiner who's experienced, but I think his use by date is very past it by now, so I'm more than happy for Maitland-Niles to get the nod over him. But I think, as you saw in the formation today, Unai Emery just wants to go for a little bit more solidarity and sort of protect his wing-backs in Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Sead Kolasinac, and I think that's the reason why he set us up defensively and with the back three. Honestly, I'm not going to criticize the formation or the personnel today, because ultimately the two wing backs provided us with the assists, and the two people who I think came under a lot of criticism today, which was Iwobi and Mkhitaryan, I think they played really well together. And obviously Iwobi got the opening goal with Lacazette scoring the winner, what turned out to be. But I've seen a lot of people on my timeline sort of having a meltdown. There's been a lot of criticism for the performance that we saw on Saturday, and honestly I thought we played pretty well in the first half. I thought our intensity was good, especially from our front three, and to an extent our front five being our wing backs. I thought Mkhitaryan and Iwobi were really pushing us up the field, and Mkhitaryan is really underrated in the fact that he presses a lot and he's really intense with his pressing, as well as his ability to drive us up the field, much like Iwobi. And I think his inclusion back into the team and his recovery from injury is very timely, because over the last few weeks and months that he's been out, we haven't had anyone to attack properly up the right hand side, and especially now with Bellerin out, we had become very left hand dominant, and I think it was putting a lot of pressure on Iwobi to sort of create something, and he's obviously been getting slaughtered for not having a lot of end product, and he even got booed when he was subbed off. I mean, he's created a goal, he probably should have had two. I don't think that was offside, and what a strike. Like, for those people saying he can't strike a ball, just look at that, and honestly, like, that's enough evidence for me to suggest that he knows how to hit a ball. I mean, as he was growing up, he played as a number 9. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos of him scoring goals in the youth setup, playing as a number 9, and honestly, he looks so calm and composed. I know he can do it. I think that because of the unfair criticism that he receives, he's probably a little bit nervous when he gets into those positions, as you saw in the second half, where he teared down the left side, and he sort of just tried to open his body and place it into the far right hand corner, but I think he scuffed it a little bit. But I just think that he sort of panics now, because I think it really gets to him with all this criticism that he gets every single week. I think it just places a lot of pressure, and I think he just rushes his chances a little bit. In saying that, I really like him as a player, as I've said in probably my previous 2 podcasts. I'm really in favour of Iwobi playing, and I just think that he gives us so much drive up the field, and he gives us a lot of things that not many other people in the squad can do. And I just think that the criticism that he's receiving is unfair. Ian Wright, on his YouTube video that he recently just posted, is 100% worth a listen if you are still on the fence about Alex Iwobi. I mean, there's a lot of chances that he misses that we see a lot of other people miss, and he for some reason gets the criticism for missing them, whereas, I mean, you look at Aubameyang, he gets hell of a lot more chances and he misses a hell of a lot more sitters, and yet when he comes off, we do not boo him. I just don't get the criticism for Alex Iwobi. He's 22, academy youth player who we've brought up through the ranks, and he's getting booed. For what reason? What purpose? And what good would that do to the player? I mean, like I said, I think with all this pressure that we're heaping on him, it's really starting to affect his game, and especially because we're on his back about the end finishing. I just think it's really getting to him, and I think everybody needs to back off. We need to be supportive. Those suggesting that he wouldn't even make it into another Premier League team and he should play in the Championship are absolutely brain dead. Like, they've got rocks for brains, these people. And those of you who can't appreciate Iwobi and the job that he's doing in the team, I've literally got no words. So I'm going to leave it there on the rant for Iwobi. As I said, I love the player, but I've probably defended him as much as I can over the last few weeks on this podcast and on Twitter. I just, I love the player. He's doing bits this season. He's really improved under Unai Emery, and I hope he just keeps going and continues to prove everybody wrong. And I think in a few years we'll see just how good he can get, and I think he'll reach the potential that I believe that he has. But going back to our front five, as I said, having both Mkhitaryan and Iwobi partnering up with the wingbacks, I think it gave us another dimension. Now, instead of only being penetrative and dangerous on the left-hand side, we are now dangerous on the right. So teams, rather than just defending us consistently on the left, they now have to set up on both sides, and it's just going to give us another element of threat and combination all over the pitch. And I think especially in the first half, Iwobi, Mkhitaryan really linked up well with not only each other but Lacazette and the wing-backs. I saw them interchange sides, and honestly, they just looked really comfortable, and they looked like they had a good understanding and a good chemistry together. So hopefully if Mickey can get like in tip-top shape and he stays fit, then I would like to see those two start in definitely our most important games. And if they can be used when, say, a Chelsea or a Man United drop points on a weekend that we, really need to capitalize on, they should just be used. I'm all for going with our strongest team every week. I'm not too sure how our schedule's looking, but if we go to Bate Borisov this Thursday, I think it is, it'll be Friday my time since I'm in Australia. So if we can go to Bate and absolutely spank them, then in the second leg, hopefully if we've got a big enough margin, we can sort of rotate then, since we should have that game wrapped up. Fingers crossed anyway, we'll see how it goes on Friday. But I've seen a lot of people being critical of the performance. I mean, honestly, for me, a win is a win, and I thought we played pretty well in the first half. The second half, either we are getting tired just due to the fact that we have so many injuries and the rotation hasn't been as well as it was at the start of the season where we had a full squad. So I think that players could be getting tired. But if it wasn't that, then I think because we were 2-0 up and we were defending pretty well, they hadn't had a lot of chances, we could have gotten complacent. Mkhitaryan looked tired, which is to be expected since this is his first game in, I think, maybe 2 months. I think he's been away. But apart from that, I think we nullified them pretty well. They got their tails up towards the end of the second half where we faded a little bit, and that's when the threat from Huddersfield started to build up. But up until then, I thought we were pretty solid. Koscielny had a boss of a game, like I said at the beginning. Mustafi sort of looks a bit broken. Just watching him play and his reactions, he sort of just looks like he's either over it or he's just completely out of confidence, because I mean, honestly, that man looks absolutely broken. I'm sure he's gone on Twitter and either he's searched all of Arsenal Twitter or just, I guess, gone through the hashtag for his name, maybe something even in his mentions, and seen the backlash that he's been getting. He just looks like he has no confidence, and I kind of feel sorry from him. I understand the reason not to play Mavropanos. I think he isn't ready quite yet, and especially since we've got a makeshift backline, I think that we needed the experience of Mustafi, even if he isn't as great as we'd hoped he'd be for 35 million. He still sort of brings enough experience to justify him playing, in my opinion anyway. And also, after this game, I've seen a lot of people question the direction that Emery has got us playing and the direction that we'll be playing going forward. A lot of people aren't convinced by the Emery system, and a lot of people don't really know what the Emery system is. I can't say I know it for sure, but going based off what I've seen at the beginning of the season when we had a full squad, I mean, a lot of it was positive then, and I think the way that he set us up to play at the start of the season sort of gives you an indication of how we like to play. And I guess in the first half today, with the way we used Mkhitaryan, Iwobi, Lacazette, Maitland-Niles, and Kolasinac, it really gives us a good insight into what his system is. And I believe that is to utilize the wing backs and the combo of the inside forwards. We saw it when Danny Welbeck was still playing for us before the injury. The inside forwards really connect well with the wingers who get beyond the back line, and we saw them cut the ball back in for the opposite inside forward and the striker, whether that be Lacazette or Aubameyang. We saw this against Chelsea. We had so many chances of that sort of caliber where the inside forwards would link up with the wing backs and we'd cut it back. Obviously, we all know that we missed a lot of chances and that was a pretty unlucky game, but we could have been 4 or 5 goals up just alone in that first half. And I think that is the way that we will see Emery set up moving forward. Just based on how we played at the start of the season when we had a full squad, that's pretty much what I saw. That's sort of what I identified this team as doing. But now that we've got so many injuries, Bellerin's gone, Lichtsteiner has started falling off the cliff. He doesn't seem to trust Jenkinson, and Ainsley Maitland-Niles is just only learning the right back position. It's not his proper position, so I think we need to ease off on the criticism on him as well. But Kolasinac has been doing it since he's gotten back into the team, and we saw Xhaka, supply the inside forwards or give a ball directly to the wing-backs if they were bombing on in that position. And a lot of our goals stemmed from playing that way. So I think going forward, that is the way that Emery will get us playing. He doesn't have the personnel right now. I think he's going to want to bring in the players that he wants in the summer. And I think we really need to give him another 2 or 3 windows at the most, just because this team that he's inherited, and I use the word inherited because I don't believe a lot of these players are ones he'll utilize going forward once he gets his hands on the players that he wants. I mean, you can look at the 5 signings that we signed this summer. Lichtsteiner was signed before the appointment of Emery, so he's not an Emery signing. Terrell was scouted by Sven Mislintat, so I'm not really sure if that was an Emery signing either. Guendouzi, you could argue, was his signings, and you could possibly make a case for Leno, since he's good on the ball, and at the start of the season it saw us play out from the back. And also Socrates, he's not like super strong on the ball as you'd see a Koscielny or a Mustafi even, and I don't really think he was an Emery signing either. So out of those 5 summer signings, I would argue that only 2 of those are his signing, and the rest of the players were players signed by the old regime, and he's basically just had to come in and work with what he's got. And we're in 5th place, 1 point off 4th place, still in the Europa League with a really good shot of winning it, especially now that Chelsea seem to be killing themselves, which is good for us because I think eventually we'll have to verse them, whether that be in the run to the final or the final. And right now I think we're definitely better than them and we can beat them at any given moment. As long as we can get past Spurs and Manchester United, I'm really confident on a Champions League spot this year. But like I said, I think we need to wait until next year before we judge Emery's system and the way that he sets us up, and for us to really see the way that he wants to play. But as I said, a win is a win. I don't want to get too carried away, and I don't want everybody to be so negative. It's roughly halfway through the season, and Unai Emery has just taken over a manager who's been at the club for more than 2 decades now. So I think you should get a little bit of leeway, and I just think that we're getting way too carried away with negativity, and I just don't see how that's positive for anybody. But all in all, I think that we played well personally. This result was very important, and it was away from home, which we haven't won an away game in quite a long time. It builds momentum for the big games in Manchester United and Spurs, and if we can keep winning, go into those games with a lot of momentum, I think we can win both of them, and that honestly will set us up for a spot in the Champions League. And also, if we beat Spurs, it'll put them down a peg, and I mean, they think they're in the title race. It's no, like there's no way that they are in the title race. It's honestly just between Liverpool and Man City. But we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. But if you guys are listening to this on YouTube, don't forget to leave me a comment and subscribe so you don't miss any of the other upcoming episodes. And for those of you who are listening from another platform, you can send me some comments or some feedback on this podcast, and I guess just send me your thoughts on the game. You can find me lurking around on Twitter at AussieGunner69, which I'll leave in all of the descriptions, so any of you who want to speak to me, feel free to do so. And until the next game, which is against Bate Borisov in the Europa League, I'll see you all in the next one. Again, thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate it. I really need to work on a way to sign these off because it's a little bit awkward, but I'll leave it at that. So thanks again for listening, guys. I'll see you in the next one.